Hello, I'm Janet Steele and I manage Commonwealth Writers, the cultural programme of the Commonwealth Foundation, the Commonwealth's agency for civil society. On behalf of the Foundation, I'd like to welcome you to this Commonwealth Writers conversation in collaboration with the High Commission of Cyprus here in London. The Foundation is delighted to be a part of the Cyprus at 60 celebrations and to have this opportunity to shine a light on Cypriot literature, as well as tell you about the Commonwealth Short Story Prize. Free to enter, it's open to citizens from all 54 Commonwealth countries, a total of 2.4 billion people. We accept entries in 11 languages. Each year, we hold the prize ceremony in a different part of the Commonwealth. Greek and Turkish were added after the prize award ceremony held in Nicosia in 2018. Coming up, we'll be meeting Contantia Soteriou, who won the prize in 2019, and her translator, Lina Protopapa, both of whom live in Nicosia.
And the winner is Contantia Soteriou.
They'll be in conversation with Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi, who won the Short Story Prize in 2014 and was also one of the judges in 2019. Since then, she has published her first novel, Kintu, her short story collection, Manchester Happened, and her second novel, The First Woman, is coming out in October. Contantia Soteriou is an award-winning author born in Nicosia. Patakis have published 3 of her books, I She Goes on Vacation, Voices Made of Soil, and Bitter Country, shortlisted for the European Union Prize of Literature. Lina Protopapa lives in Nicosia, where she works as a translator and cultural critic. Accompanying this conversation is a recorded reading by the British Cypriot actress Daphne Alexander.
Our Spasula. It's bound to be a hard night. For our Spasula. For all of us. Tonight is the night Spasula dies.
Now, let's go to our Zoom link and join Jennifer as she asks Constantia about the importance of telling real stories about real people, and Lina about the added importance of translation.
We are going to discuss Constantia's phenomenal win of the Commonwealth Short Story Prize of 2019.
First of all, thank you so much for doing this, Jennifer, for chairing this meeting. And I also like to thank the Cyprus Republic and the Embassy of Cyprus in Britain for giving us this opportunity and this step to talk about our work and to celebrate the Republic of Cyprus 60 years anniversary of its establishment.
Tell us a little about what it was like to win the Commonwealth Short Story Prize and what it was like to go to Canada for the prize ceremony.
I feel very lucky that I won this competition because it meant a lot for my work and the efforts I put in writing. Now, as regard the trip in Canada, it was such an amazing experience because, you know, all the 2019 regional winners, we were all women. And together with Lina, we were like 6 strong women trying to tell our strong stories, talking about the stories of women, the conflicts in our countries, the struggle of being a woman writer. And that alone was an amazing experience to have.
I knew it was a good story and I knew I had done my best to translate it as faithfully as possible, but it was such a huge surprise and a pleasure to see, you know, how universal a story like that could prove to be. So I think that was, you know, the number one feeling, like immense joy and satisfaction and pleasure. And then I second everything that Constantia said about our Canadian experience. It was amazing to be part of a group of women who had written fantastic stories, and you know, I had read them before I went to meet them, and I was starstruck, and I was so happy to be able to have a chat with them about their stories. So yes, it was wonderful.
I'd like to inform our listeners that after judging the award, I was given the chance to travel to your beautiful country and lead a workshop on craft and writing fiction. And I led a group of 5 women, if for some reason that was a women's year. And I remember I was given the chance to break the news to you, Constantia. Leading from that, I wonder, what made you write about this subject, the history of Cyprus?
I remember that time as well, Jennifer. I was like so surprised, and it was a very emotional time as well. Yes. About the subject now, I've been writing about the women in Cyprus for some time now. I have written 2 books already about it. I tried to write about how women anticipate the conflicts in Cyprus, how they feel it and how they participated, and how the outcome of the wars were felt in their life. In my opinion, it's like in Cyprus and in places like in my country, the official history is written by men. So the women are never asked about their way of seeing things. They are never asked about how they experience the world. Their opinion is not asked, is not heard. Nobody listened to them. Perhaps is considered not to be as important as men's. So for me, it was extremely important to give a step to women, to say their own experience about what happened in Cyprus. And another thing is that I think women are portrayed in a certain ways in Cyprus. They are the victims, they are the mothers that waited, they are the poor women that were left behind and they had to feel the consequences of the war. I wanted to put them in the front and make them speak and tell their own truth, because these women were suffering for so long. And I have to say that making my little research about this story, I realized not only all these things that I described, that there were a lot of information about the fate of these people, of the missing people, that were known, and nobody cared actually to inform these women about the fate of their loved ones. And I think I just put myself in their position, having to live in this gray area for so many years, being victimized by the state, by the society. I just felt that was awful. And as Lina said before, writing and literature, if they have a purpose, is to give voice to the weakest people, is to give voice to the women, is to give voice to those that suffered.
Especially now, in this, moment in history where I think we're all, seeing with apprehension, a certain kind of rhetoric dominate the public sphere in many different places in the world. I think translation is a very powerful tool to counter that kind of rhetoric, and so that's where I would place the importance of translation right now. And in the case of Constantia's story, I think it has proven, this experience has proven to me how truly powerful that is and how possible that is. The fact that people from all over the Commonwealth countries were able to connect to that story proves to me that it's not an illusion, that storytelling and translation can do something.
Now I'll come back to you, Constantia. Let's look at the story itself now. You Death Customs talks about painful moments in the history of Cyprus. However, it is the beauty of the birth rituals, the death customs, the traditional beliefs on kindness and rightfulness that create the character of your nation.
For me, writing it was a tool that helped these traditions be kept alive. A part of this, I think that these traditions, these customs, the death customs I describe in the book, it was a tool that helped the main actress of my story, Spasula, to live and to die in a peaceful way. And I think this is the role of these rituals and these traditions, is to help you survive in a world built by men and ruled by men as well. And I keep going back to this world that was built by men and inhabited by women, because in cases of conflicts that, like the one I described in my short story, I think it's very important to show the power of the women. And I think these rituals and these traditions that come from a long time ago, from ancient time, really show the connection that women kept from the past to the present, how strong they are, and how they will continue to be that strong. And yes, it was a device for me to tell my story, because I imagine, the story talks about Spasula, the time she dies, and we have a core of women accompany her. And I think that these are like the ancient drama that I used to read and watch. And I wanted to give this idea. I wanted to have this connection with the past and the present and the future.
Oh, fantastic. I hadn't realized that the chorus is also very traditional Greek storytelling device, indeed. Thank you for reminding us. Now, Lina, I would like to talk to you about the specific experience of translating death customs. Now, there are moments when a reader hears the Greek language coming through the English language. Phrases like, "all that happened, happened," or "what is found," or "make your wishes now that the fates are listening," or my favorite was, "leave me alone already." These are written in English, but they are Greek. And then there are also parts, especially Aisha's speech, which is in Turkish, which you choose not to translate at all, and which I think is fantastic. However, can you explain how you came up with these decisions? How did you decide that this part I'm not going to translate? This part is going to be written in Greek English.
Those choices have to do with, my vision of translation and just the kind of translation that I enjoy reading and that I appreciate and that I also aspire to. And that's the kind of translation that takes a lot of care to preserve difference in the in the translated text, and that honors difference and finds ways to insert the culture in the text wherever possible, even sometimes risking like a slight disturbance, like in the reader, if that makes sense, like a small moment of alienation that will remind your reader that this story was not written by an English person in London. This story belongs to a different culture, and and that's I think the specific combination of languages that carries with it a specific history, which is a history of colonization and violence. I think that makes makes me even more responsible as a translator to honor the language and the culture of the original text, and to be super careful not to erase or obliterate difference for the sake of a smooth reading experience, which I also want, but the two things can coexist, I think. As for the Turkish part of the text, the reason why I chose to keep it in as it was because I knew that the author, I didn't know the author was Constantia when I was translating the text, so I couldn't call her up and ask. But I knew she had made a very conscious decision to add the Turkish in written in Latin characters rather than transcribe it in Greek or translate it in Greek. So I made my choice to keep that because I knew that it was important to the author. And I also really like the idea that the readers would get a sense of the sound of a language, and I wish I could have done that with Greek, but it's a whole other alphabet, so that would have been too much alienation.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Now, this question goes to both of you. How much interest, I'll start with you, Constantia. Now, how much interest was there in your writing outside Cyprus before the winning? And can you compare it to the interest now in your writing outside Cyprus? And Lina, again, after Constantia, I'd like you to talk about the interest in your translation because translation is also not only a skill, but it is creative.
Like the big issue for us as writers that write in, let's say, small languages that are not well recognized, is to be translated. So yes, some doors open about it for my books to be translated in English. We are in talks now with some people, and hopefully together with Lina we'll have a good result on this. And of course there was a recognition in Cyprus and Greece as well about my work. I think this award open doors for you. It makes you being heard and make your voice to be heard as well.
My experience of the before and after the Commonwealth Prize is actually very similar to Constantia's. We are together in talks about translating her work. So that's something that would have never happened otherwise. But again, I'm going to repeat Constantia a bit here. The recognition of your work and just the opportunity to get your work read by such a wide audience, and especially such a global audience, was huge for me. It was super important.
Oh, fantastic. I would like to thank the Commonwealth Short Story Prize for putting you